Λοιπόν, τώρα θα δώσω το λόγο στον Νίκο τον Παπανικολό, προκειμένου να συντονίσει την πρώτη ενότητα του συνεδρίου μας, η οποία περιλαμβάνει δύο σύντομες ομιλίες από καταξιωμένους διεθνείς ομιλητές. Σήμερα, να πω και σου δίνω αμέσως το λόγο, αγαπητέ Νίκο, είχαμε προγραμματίσει να έχουμε κοντά μας εδώ στη Θεσσαλονίκη τον Jorge Sebastiao, ο οποίος είχε προγραμματίσει να ταξιδέψει από το Ντουπάι καταξιωμένος διεθνής ομιλητής ICT, έμπειρο CTO με εξειδίκευση στους τομείς του blockchain, artificial intelligence, cyber security, cloud computing and big data. Δυστυχώς, ενός σοβαρού προσωπικού θέματος δεν κατάφερε τελευταία στιγμή να είναι μαζί μας, οπότε θα τον έχουμε στο συνέδριο μας ψηφιακά. Δεν θα πω περισσότερα, θα δώσω το λόγο στον Νίκο τον Παπανικολό για να αναφερθεί και στους δύο ομιλητές, γιατί ξέρω ότι έχεις μια έτσι πολύχρονη και δυνατή συνεργασία με τους δύο τους καλεσμένους μας.
Θεωρώ ότι έχουμε λίγο ατυχία που δεν είναι ο αγαπητός Χόρχε μαζί μας, αλλά θα πω πριν ζητήσω να συνδεθεί για να μας μιλήσει για το blockchain, ότι η ιστορία του Jorge του Σεμπαστιάου είναι πολύ μεγάλη, προερχόμενη από το cyber security. Δηλαδή ένας άνθρωπος ο οποίος ασχολείται πάρα πολλά χρόνια με το blockchain, έχοντας μια τεράστια εμπειρία στο cyber security. Πρέπει να σας πω ότι υπήρξε τεχνικός διευθυντής στην μία από τις μεγαλύτερες εταιρείες έξυπνων τηλεφώνων, τη Highway, την κινέζικη, πάνω σε θέματα κυβερνοασφάλειας. Άρα έχουμε έναν άνθρωπο ο οποίος ασχολήθηκε συστηματικά και ασχολείται με τον blockchain παγκόσμια, όντας advisor σε δεκάδες επιχειρήσεις, και είναι, θα έλεγα, σε ένα κίνημα που έχουμε, που στο κίνημα αυτό έχει μπει τώρα και ο Άρης, το κίνημα που με εισαγωγικά είμαστε λίγο ευαγγελιστές αυτής της νέας τεχνολογίας. Δηλαδή, είμαστε άνθρωποι που αγαπάμε την τεχνολογία αυτή, πιστεύουμε σε αυτή και πιστεύουμε ότι έχει μεγάλη προοπτική. Να δώσουμε πρώτα τώρα το λόγο στο Χόρχε και μετά θα πω για τον... είναι απέναντί μου, οπότε... Welcome, Jorge. Regards from Thessaloniki. Everything okay? We have a very good audience, and we're waiting you. I remember last time our fire chat in Dubai, but now we can have not fire chat, but your interesting speech in blockchain conference in Thessaloniki.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here. Name is Jorge Sebastiao. I apologize for actually not being able to be there due to family matters, but it's definitely my pleasure to be here to discuss the important topic of a blockchain. I've had the pleasure of working 35 years in IT, 22 in cybersecurity, and the last 7 years in blockchain. So during my talk here, I'll be spending some time discussing the value and the importance of blockchain, specifically the use cases that blockchain brings. So let me share my screen. So hopefully you see my screen.
Yes, everything okay.
Okay, good. So I will be talking about how blockchain is causing disruption in the traditional industries in which we work. And obviously we talked briefly also about crypto, but blockchain is a much bigger topic than crypto itself. I've had the pleasure of being one of the co-founders of the Global Blockchain Organization that was established in Oslo as part of ADO, and it established to help worldwide with the adoption of blockchain. One thing that is probably important to note is that the blockchain is unique. Now, it's unique because blockchain allows us to create assets, in this case, non-fungible tokens, as are known today, that are assets that can then be transferred. And this uniqueness of these assets has many properties associated with it. It obviously can represent objects in the real world, but it can also represent objects in the digital world created by artists, could be even architects, could be musicians, could be book writers, could be 3D world artists, and so on. It can even be a video, so any kind of blob content. Blockchain as a technology is causing disruption, and this disruption is creating massive change in some of the existing industries that we have in our world today. The one that is being most disrupted today by blockchain is definitely the financial technology, because blockchain allows you, obviously, the transfer of this value. However, I want to be with you to describe that this disruption goes and extends much beyond the fintech industry, and I'll try to give some examples of that as well. One, today we talk really about disruption. We talk really about adoption and speed of adoption. So blockchain, in the short time that has been with us, a little bit over 11, 12 years, has created this massive disruption. Actually, the biggest disruption came not with blockchain 1.0, but with blockchain 2.0 that introduced with Ethereum the concept of smart contracts, which introduced the capability of programmability, which allowed us to have more than one consensus mechanism. So the method by which we establish the truth in this exchange of value. And number two, by the capability to actually execute code as part of this transfer of value. And I'll try to highlight that as well. So one of the best examples, since I am spending most of my time around the Middle East, Dubai, and about 30 other countries in the region, we can say that one of the islands of the world was sold for Bitcoin. Now, the world is the second project of man-made islands after the Palm, and the average price of these islands is anywhere from $5 million to $50 million. So obviously being able to make such a payment and make such a transfer, regardless of where the person may be, it introduces a whole new way of actually, you can say, to do a business and to do e-commerce. So this transfer of value enables us to exchange transfer of assets in the real world as we know it today. Today, in a place like Dubai, you can no longer just buy an island or an apartment or a house, but you can buy a car, you can buy government services and many others as part of this change. So you can say blockchain as a technology enables us to define trust. As you know, with Web 2.0, the knowledge of trust has always been an add-on element, which has created us a lot of problems and trouble because it is not part of the layers of that internet. With Web 3.0, blockchain is now a common layer in this new way of decentralizing and defining the internet, and therefore allows two parties, being a person or individuals or organizations, to actually establish trust and transfer this trust and these assets amongst them. But everything is actually not so simple. Everything goes good until you actually have a plan. And like Mike Tyson says, a plan is good, but until you get hit. So blockchain has obviously hit and caused massive disruption to existing industries, one of them obviously being banking and the fintech industry. Specifically, when we talk about elements associated with crypto and all the way up to digital currencies, you can realize that the amount of change that has happened is actually quite substantial. It allows us to have the elements of decentralization, convertibility, payment, flexibility, and obviously it creates a whole new economical cycle that was not there before. And these digital currencies obviously enable us to transfer value to anybody or any organization across the world, to the point that even today, governments with, for example, Barbados being one of the first countries to actually do that, has introduced what is known CBDC, or central bank digital currencies. And other countries are examining and have been testing this, one example being China with the digital RMB, which has been in test for a little bit over 3 years. All these technologies are obviously causing massive disruption in the financial world. When we talk about disruption, it's about creation of value. And when we talk about the blockchain, many elements come into play to actually create this value. We have tokens as utility, we have tokens as assets, we have tokens that allow you to do tokenization. This tokenization can be of real assets. One example, we have real estate tokenization. We can tokenize existing funds or bonds or coupons of bonds. We can tokenize things like, for example, gold, which enables us to now have a version of digital gold and therefore no longer have to carry physically that gold around to actually initiate this transfer. And obviously, we can even tokenize currencies, not just CBDCs, as I mentioned. One of the most popular currencies that we have today is actually not Bitcoin, as most people think. The most popular currency in usage is actually USDT, which is a tokenization of the US dollar and enables us to transfer stable value based on a worldwide accepted currency that is extremely useful in e-commerce. Beyond the usage of smart contracts, we have the concept known as DAO, stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization, that allows now not just to have tokens that have utility and value, but tokens that introduces the concept of governance. So that means tokens can have voting power in the discussion of projects that are undertaken by these organizations. And under this governance relationship, we can create quite substantial disruption. Obviously, one of the biggest important elements of a blockchain today is the power of asset tokenization. And tokenization really enables us to create a digital version of something that we have in the real world today. Most common assets in the real world include things like real estate, gold, or even art or artifacts. And by creating them as tokens, we can transfer their value. We can do concepts like fractional ownership. So that means you can have a partial ownership of a real estate or a partial ownership of a piece of art or gold. And that enables us to take the revenues or the value associated with it. So if the gold appreciates, so do the tokens. If the real estate appreciates, so do the tokens. Even more than that, if the real estate actually has revenues from its operation, the tokens get returns based on this utility associated with the operation of the real estate as well. But obviously, crypto does not come just with benefits. It comes with big risks associated with them. To make a long story short, on an average year today, over $2 billion of funds in crypto and digital currencies get stolen either from wallets, exchanges, or other mechanisms, which really means that these hacks create a problem associated with the credibility of the whole blockchain environment. The good important element is that blockchains by themselves have been relatively safe and are not the elements that have been hacked, but the other elements around that blockchain. So passwords not being kept in a safe way, or, for example, other elements like the operating systems under which you're using these blockchains, or devices like mobiles or Windows or Unix machines, and this creates. Other cases has been associated with vulnerabilities in the smart contracts that are actually used to define these relationships. That's why today it is important to do the auditing of smart contracts as an approach. So most of the blockchain projects today are relatively complex, and sometimes blockchain only plays an element of anywhere 5 to 10% of the elements of the project. And usually we call these full stack development projects, which means could be Web3 applications, could be mobile apps, obviously decentralized. But the advantage here is that blockchain is one of the layers that creates the value inside the end-to-end ecosystem. So let me give you an example of just a pure blockchain organized utility that has been done for the largest telecom organization in the world. The largest telecom organization in the world operates over 50 different mobile around the world and has thousands of suppliers that could be for mobile, cellular towers, batteries, servers, and storage. And as a result, this relationship between themselves and its suppliers is before done by paper. So that means you write a contract. Maybe the contract says 1,000 mobile phones will be delivered, but instead of 1,000, maybe 999 got delivered. So that means you need to have adjustments associated with these contracts. So you have a lot of this paper going back and forth. To make a long story extremely short and to the point, this specific largest telecom organization is signing electronic digital signature contracts between themselves and their suppliers. Suppliers could be Huawei, could be Lenovo, or IBM, or other big suppliers. And by signing and digital signing, everything is actually digital. And even the adjustments to the contracts are also digital and defined through the smart contracts that actually are embedded as part of it. The net value of saving for this organization is about $400 million per year. So it gives you that blockchain is not just about a technology of tokenization and trust. It's a technology that can introduce substantial digital innovation that actually translates into proper digitalization, is substantial saving to the organizations that actually choose to implement that. Obviously, the biggest vertical sector that has been disrupted by blockchain is the fintech sector. But I would like to always mention that blockchain is one of the key elements disrupting that fintech sector, but there is many other technologies that are also causing that disruption alongside blockchain. And I like to mention things like, for example, social media, mobile platforms, where people tend to develop today mobile first, cloud technology, Internet of Things that allows us to have, for example, touchless payments or QR code payments. Touchless payments are built using RFID technology and are part of the Internet of Things or Internet of Everything. And obviously, one should not forget the customer experience, which means things like the friendliness and the usage of the user interface that is part of it. Other important elements include big data, artificial intelligence and analytics, and obviously cybersecurity. So all of these, alongside with blockchain, are actually contributing to this disruption. So I want to put forward to you that the most successful disruptions coming in blockchain are the ones that are going to combine blockchain with other technologies. So combining blockchain with robotics, combining blockchain with AI. We're in the process of doing what's called smart cities or advanced smart cities, in this case, conscientious cities. So these are smart cities that use both AIs and robots. Some robots are physical, but some robots are actually software driven. And blockchain substantially enhances the trust associated with AI and the operations in this conscientious city. In this specific case, we are actually using a combination of technology from several organizations, including SingularityNet, which is the developer of Sophia, the robot, along with Anson Robotics, but also Cardano, which is a modern blockchain that has integration with AI capabilities in its new version. And as the scalability, we're talking about anywhere from 100,000 to 1 million transactions per second, because today most blockchains don't have the capability for such high speed. The last elements that I think are also important is how to drive adoption of blockchains. So it is important to spend a lot of time building the necessary knowledge transfer and education to educate the markets so that we speed up and drive adoption in the blockchain projects. I found that the last important element for success in blockchain projects is the establishment of a complete and successful ecosystem. One blockchain project today is not using just a solution from a single provider, but an integration of solutions between various providers. And we see a lot of this in solutions that are being developed today for the metaverse. And the metaverse is really this ecosystem of a 3D world, a digital wallet, a Web3 environment in which e-commerce can be performed in a friendly but also in a trusted way as well. Many of these elements have been with us for some years, but blockchain is actually introducing agility in this adoption. But what is important is not just blockchain, but the entire ecosystem to drive an end-to-end usage and utility. Now, I want to leave with you that blockchain has got many, many use cases. And obviously, to be able to study all of these, this would be part of a 3 or even a 5-day course. So it is being used, for example, in smart contracts, like, for example, establishing virtual escrows. I already talked about digital currencies. It has extremely good applications in healthcare to have, for example, portability of healthcare records, very good applications in electronic voting, and obviously introduction of a whole new versions of what we can call digital securities. And all of these are part of a menu of blockchain projects that are being developed as we speak. When we talk about investing in the successful development of these projects, many elements are important. One is the disruption being introduced by these projects, the agility of adoption that is done by providing the necessary training and education that is, for example, being done today here in this blockchain event in Thessaloniki. It is also about establishing the proper and integrated ecosystem to have an end-to-end solution. And the last one is to have a proper, mature technology stack that is trusted, that has been tested, and that is safe. All of these elements are important to drive a complete end-to-end success of blockchain. Now, I invite you obviously to connect on social media and to make any requests for further information that you may need as part of a follow-up to this presentation that we have done here today and continue the discussion. I may have some time for questions, so I pass it back to the moderator.
Thank you, Jorge, for a very interesting speech. And of course, all the audience can connect with you and send any question. And I'm sure that because you are so active, and thank you again for your interesting speech, that you will give any additional information to our audience for the specific, in your speech for specific topics. Thank you again.